Welcome to the Ego versus EQ and You podcast, where we discuss the key aspects of emotional intelligence and ways to apply it in everyday living. Now let's work together to make common sense more common. Welcome back to the Ego versus EQ and You podcast. We're here in season 2, thrilled to have you back with us. And in this episode, we have a really fun topic. We call it the victim virus. And you know, the victim, right? No one ever explained this to me. Nothing will ever change. I never have good luck. The environment made me do it kind of person. These are people who are masters at the blame game. So they will deflect or dodge or defend why they've done what they've done. And most often it's an outward blame mentality. So they never take a lot of responsibility or accountability for themselves or what has happened, but like to attribute bad things to external circumstances. And although, yes, we are in some cases a true victim, in many cases, though, there are very few situations where we are actual victims. In almost every case, and having done decades of coaching now, almost every behavior I see, it's a reaction to someone else's behavior. So when we come in and do a coaching engagement or a conflict resolution, there's usually never just one person who is innocent in all of it. We all contribute to a variety of interactions that can lead to feeling victimized. And what's really important is that we communicate those thoughts. A lot of times that victim virus remains internal. We feel sorry for ourselves. We have a pity party for ourselves. And in some ways then, the victim mindset isn't theft of our identity. It's abdication of our identity because we are basically letting other people control our circumstances and our outcomes. So how does the workplace get affected by the victim virus? And I use the term virus for a reason because I also see this mentality spread within a team. And there was a really interesting book written a few years ago called The Oz Principle, and the authors are Connors, Smith, and Hickman. And they looked at what happens when you have victim attitudes thriving in one organization. And what they describe is a destructive force, concluding, and I quote, "If left uncorrected in an organization, victim attitudes can erode productivity, competitiveness, morale, and trust to the point that the correction becomes so difficult and expensive that the organization can never fully heal itself or its people." So it's deadly to a company to let this victim virus spread. And if you think about it, it's like the ultimate form of ego over EQ because it is so self-focused. And I think we all have a tendency to possess a victim mindset from time to time. The challenge is, can we notice when it's happening through self-awareness and then catch ourselves and check, am I blaming others when I need to take some responsibility myself? So here are some questions that you could ask yourself. What was my role in this? Did I set clear expectations for others and clearly communicate my desired outcome? Or did I just do, hoping? Could I have used my influence skills more instead of feeling caught in a power struggle? How much time have I spent stewing over the issue instead of focusing on ways to solve it? Do I complain more than I confront? Do I rehearse and rationalize my reasons for doing what I do to prove to others it wasn't my fault? And was there anything more I could have done to successfully ensure the outcome of this situation? So all of these will lead you hopefully to a place where you can take some power back And if you're a leader or a business owner and want to know if the victim virus is in your organization, here are some behaviors that you can look for that might tell you. 1, does the person demonstrate a habit of ignoring or pretending to not know about their own accountability? Do they deny their responsibility and blame others? Do they cite confusion as a reason for inaction? Do they wait for others to tell them what to do? Do they claim they can't do what's necessary to solve the problem? Do they wait and see if the situation will miraculously solve itself? These would all be symptoms that you might have the victim virus inside your organization. Now, the antidote to being a victim is agency. This is a feeling of control over your actions and your consequences. And I think we often like to own the control part, control over our actions, but we don't love the consequences part. But we have to have both in order to truly maximize our agency. When we deflect the consequences, we surrender agency. So we have to do both. We have to have control and consequences. And Merriam-Webster defines agency, if we spend a minute on this, as the capacity, condition, or state of acting or exerting power. Agency is empowerment to make decisions. Agency is making choices. Agency is being self-determinant. Agency requires us to consider the consequences of any course of action and take it still knowing what those consequences are, and that I have to face those if it comes to pass. And I think agency helps you when you combine it with self-awareness, because it helps put you in situations that bring out the best in you while minimizing the worst of you. Agency focuses, we have to learn from our mistakes. If we're going to maximize agency, it teaches us to face those consequences, which is how we learn how to do things differently next time. So it's a real strong learning tool, is this agency. Now, the virus side of the victimhood is also really interesting. And Dan Goleman, who I've mentioned earlier in other episodes of this podcast, who was one of the seminal authors on the topic of emotional intelligence in the 90s, he wrote a book called Social Intelligence. And he talks a lot about this virus component of emotion. He calls it emotional contagion. And it's basically the unconscious process where we can catch the emotions of others. And what's interesting is negative or fear-based emotion lives in this area called the low road, and positive or happy emotions live on the high road. And why this is important is the amygdala, which is a part of our brain that controls the emotional responses. It works on the low road, and the low road transfers from person to person 3 times faster than emotion transfers on the high road. And if you think about the low road, it bypasses the rational brain. It's fear-based. And the amygdala is there for protection. So it has a job. Its job is to assess threats around you. So one person might hear rumors that layoffs are coming, and that triggers their amygdala. So now their low road is going strong, right? Oh no, there's going to be layoffs. It could be me. It could be you. And now they start talking to other people at the company. And then their amygdalas get triggered on that low road, because the danger of the low road is it bypasses the rational brain. It just gives you that physical reaction. So now you've got a whole bunch of people that are working in what Dan Goleman calls an amygdala hijack, where it has completely hijacked your rational thinking to say, well, maybe this is just a rumor and isn't true, or maybe I'm not going to be the person on the list. You can't think rationally when that amygdala is flared up. And so this is how it can transfer quickly from person to person. And we have to be able to stop, recognize what's happening, give us a little bit of distance so that our amygdala can settle down a little bit and we can regain control of the prefrontal cortex, the logic center of the brain. This is learned. This is something that takes a little bit of time for all of us to absorb and identify in ourselves. So I would say it's important to recognize, when am I being a victim? What am I attributing that to? What about this situation do I have control over? And I recognize there are some situations that we don't have control over. So it's not to say that we are 100% able to do anything and everything we want. I get that. But usually you have some control over something. So it's stopping and asking yourself, what about this can I control? Is my amygdala running the show right now? And what do I do to give myself a little break there so I can think my way to a solution? And then take responsibility. It's funny because I think when people see us making an effort to take responsibility, they're more inclined to want to help us. And I was thinking about this the other day because I think it happens to all of us, right? You're driving on the road and you see a car on the side of the road with their hazards on. And how often do you stop to help? I don't. I usually assume, they've called someone for help and, someone's on the way. But multiple times, my husband and I have been driving down the road and we've seen somebody on the side of the road pushing their car to try and get it into a nearby driveway. And almost every time we have stopped and gotten out and helped them push the car. Why it's different than someone just sitting on the side of the road with their hazards on versus out pushing their car, I don't know. But I'm so much more motivated to want to help them when I see them trying and making an effort on their own. I think passively waiting for help is different than actively trying to help ourselves. And that's what inspires others to jump in. So, in a nutshell, the victim virus can be a mental health killer because it makes us feel helpless and hopeless. It's also an employee engagement killer. Employees who take ownership and accountability don't want to work in an environment where other people aren't. And consequently, this becomes a really important component to better well-being, mental health, and ultimately living with more emotional intelligence. So make this a priority, something you can focus on, and do it today. All right. Thanks for joining us in this episode. If you have ideas for future episodes or any challenges that you're having with a relationship or a communication with someone else, feel free to write into the show, podcast@jenshirkani.com. It'll also be in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us today on the Ego versus EQ and You podcast. If you liked this episode, be sure to follow us or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please share our show with others. For questions or future topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@jenshirkani.com. Until next time, keep using your EQ and show ego who's boss.